Welcome to the Becoming You show, where limits get torched and possibility takes the mic. I'm Leah Rowling, human in permanent beta, neurostrategist, mom to 3 amazing humans, married to 1 legendary soul, and your no fluff permission slip to stop waiting. Every week, we rewire brain patterns, smash hand-me-down mindsets, and dive into the daring, identity-shifting conversations most people dodge. Ready to turn potential into proof? Grab your pen. Your next chapter starts now. Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome back to the show. I want to talk about something today that I'll just say subtle, but powerful. Super powerful when you finally see it. It's not just about people being selfish or self-absorbed, right? It's about the people that you give and give and give to, and they take and take and take. I was coaching a client last week, which is what kind of spurred this whole conversation that I'm going to bring forward to you today, as most do, right? Generally, these conversations are based on what I'm currently navigating or what my clients are currently navigating. And this was what was brought up. And I don't remember what I named this podcast. I think it was like the orbit of tolerance or something, but that's what I mean. These tolerations, right? This give, and take. But I wanted to disrupt this in a way that I hope sets you free from the unnecessary suffering that we create in all of our tolerations. So if you find yourself from time to time sick and tired of tolerating this or that, if you find yourself exhausted in tolerations, this is a podcast that you're going to want to listen to. Okay. And I'm going to preface it by saying, I'm going to challenge you in this podcast, right? A lot of the things that I say are disruptive. I get it. And a lot of the things that I say, people don't like. And that's fine. And that's fine. And this might be one of them. But I want you to lean into the discomfort that this podcast might bring forward to you just a little bit to see what moves for you and what is revealed to you in doing so. Okay. Here's the truth. Okay. Other people, you can only take that much that you give because we've tolerated it. Okay? Now, that dynamic shows up everywhere. It shows up in our marriages. It shows up in our friendships. It shows up in our parenting. It shows up in our teams at work. And it also shows up with ourselves. So when we think of takers, okay, as other people, most of the time, right? When we think of toleration, we most of the time think about what we tolerate in others, okay? But the truth is, so many of us take from our own future selves. We take the convenience of the easy out. We take the comfort of not going to the gym. We take the quick win of the drink, the dessert, the Netflix binge, the shopping spree, etc. We take the relief of avoiding that uncomfortable conversation. And each time we do that, we're trading the big, real wins of our future for the false, quick wins of right now. And if you think about it, there's not much difference between our quick wins, right? The ones that feel the easiest in the moment, and the wins that we hand to others when we keep giving without boundaries. And in both cases, we're prioritizing the moment, this moment, over the future. So I want you to think about it this way. I'm calling it the orbit, because in this particular conversation and in the conversations that I was having with my own child, it's like the world orbits around them. So that's how I came up with this concept of the orbit. Okay. When we constantly give to someone without asking for reciprocity, okay, when we step in and do what they could do for themselves, when we never require effort in return, we put them in the center of the orbit. I want you to consider that for a minute. Of course, we don't do that consciously, but we do it. We do it. And when we do it, we unintentionally teach them that the center is their spot. So I want you to think about this. I want you to think about the person when I brought it forward in the conversation. Who are you frustrated with? Who do you think that you continue to tolerate? Who do you believe you give and give and give and give, and they take and take and take and take? This is for that person. We have unintentionally taught them that the center is rightfully theirs. And they start to operate like it's theirs by right. And then something shifts in us, right? We get frustrated, we get resentful. And instead of talking about it, we quietly decide that they don't belong there anymore. Of course, we don't say that to them. We just stop showing up in the same way. We withhold a little love. We shorten the conversation. We stop checking in. For most of us, it's pretty subtle. For some of us, it's not subtle at all. As I mentioned, I just navigated this with my own son last month, right? Didn't have the conversation. I didn't explain what I was feeling or what I was noticing in his behavior. I just grew cold. And the result, he was still in the center, right? The center that I put him in, but now without any sort of warmth, without any grace, without my guidance, without a path out of that center spot. He was lonely. He became disconnected. I was lonely. I disconnected from him. Neither of us knew how to fix it because I hadn't offered him anything to have a conversation around. And here's the thing, as I was navigating this with my client and as I was navigating this with my own life, sometimes, even when we do offer something, right? Even if we've had the conversation, what feels like 100 times, you hear me? Are you with me? Right? It doesn't land the way we hope, right? That's when it's easy to believe that there are only two options left, okay? Either go silent and hope they figure it out because you can't imagine having 101 conversations with them, or we let our frustrations erupt and hope they change. Yes? But what if there's another way? What if we could stay in the conversation? Not the same tired conversation that we've had 100 times, but a different one. One where we shift the orbit by changing our approach, not just repeating our words louder or silencing them altogether. What if instead of that silence and frustration, we held the space for them to step out of the center without shame, and we gave ourselves the same grace for putting them there in the first place? Okay? So I want to quickly talk about tolerations versus judgments, okay? Because here's where tolerations get tricky. Tolerations are basically expectations disguised as facts, okay? When we say, I tolerate this or I put up with that, what we're really saying is this behavior is not okay. And everyone would agree that it's not okay. And it could be proven in a court of law, which is most likely never going to be the case. And even we try to slap a label on it just for good measure. He watches too much TV. He's lazy. She drinks too much. She's messy. He doesn't communicate well. Inconsistent. Inconsiderate. Irresponsible. Throw a label on it. As if our labels actually prove anything. Because last I checked, you cannot go get tested, right, for being lazy. Like I couldn't take somebody to my doctor's office and have them tested for being lazy, for being inconsiderate, for being messy, right? All these labels actually do is confirm our own suffering in the judgment of our tolerations, okay? Because here's the truth. Tolerations are often just masks for our preconceived judgments. And your judgments, they don't change anyone. I say this all the time on the show. No one is motivated by your shame. Not even you. Okay? But you feel your judgments. You sit in them. You suffer because of them. And this is not me saying don't have boundaries. Boundaries matter. But boundaries aren't about what you hope other people will do. They're about what you will do in the situation. So let's map out this orbit, okay? In the self-focused orbit, here's what we tolerate, okay? From ourselves, this is what we tolerate. We tolerate distraction. We tolerate avoidance. We tolerate inconsistency, right? And those easy now, yes choices that rob our future. Okay, that's what we tolerate from ourselves. And from others, we tolerate a lack of reciprocity. We tolerate poor treatment. We tolerate poor miscommitments. We tolerate when we stay quiet because we don't want the conflict. That's what we tolerate. And why do we stay there? Why do we stay there? Why do we stay in these unhealthy orbits? I believe because there's a payoff. Every toleration has a payoff. Comfort, ego, control, belonging. And we keep tolerating until the cost outweighs the payoff. And the danger is that cost isn't always immediate. And so I think it's why we call it tolerate, because we endure. We don't have the conversation along the process, along our enduring journey. So it sneaks up on us. And before we know it, right, the cost is disconnection in relationships, like the distance that I created with my son. My son didn't just one day decide he was going to be in the orbit, the center of this orbit. It was over months and weeks, most likely, that I had given him permission to be there. And he took full advantage of it. Why wouldn't he? It wasn't just in one day that I put him there and then all of a sudden I get upset about it. It was something that I had tolerated because I tolerated the payoff of ease. I tolerated the payoff of not having what I might consider a more challenging, a more accountability type level of conversation with him. And I'm not judging myself for it. I know that this is what happened. But because I'm aware of what happens, I know now how to remedy it. I know how to invite him out of an orbit where the world revolves around him and one where he revolves around the world. Because outside of this disconnection in this relationship, we also harbor massive resentment, right? For me, it was believing that he shouldn't have been in the center without recognizing that I was the one that put him there. and lost possibility. This is the cost, my friends. Disconnection, resentment, and lost possibility for his growth, for my growth, and for what we could have created together by way of a kind conversation, an empowering conversation, one where I don't abandon him in the center that I put him in. So here's the thing. When we believe we are, quote unquote, tolerating other people, there is a lot of frustration that comes from that belief. That frustration, that quote unquote toleration, blocks our ability to lead in love, blocks our ability to offer helpful feedback. And when we pull away, which is what some of us do, we avoid, we give the cold shoulder, we silence, right? We claim we're processing, right? Or we push forward, we yell, we erupt, we dramatize the entire scene, all of which I have done, by the way. We lose out on the opportunity to help each other, one another, communicate more effectively. We miss out on an opportunity to be that person's confidant. We miss out on our ability to be one another's coach. So tolerations are basically just expectations disguised as facts. In other words, when we say, I tolerate this or I put up with that, right? What we're really saying is that this behavior is not okay, as I mentioned, that everyone would agree. Okay. And it's super important for us to understand that one, our tolerations, our expectations are just our opinions about the way of the world. They're not facts. And yet we suffer needlessly because of them, right? And so when we understand this, we can actually shift the orbit. So this is my framework that I'm going to bring forward to you. If there is someone in your life that you continue to claim that you tolerate, yourself included, okay, I want you to observe where you are. The acronym is ORBIT. So if you're taking notes, you would write O, observe. Where are you? Who's in the center? How did they get there? It's either you or somebody else in the center, and most likely both of you at the same time, right? Because we're in the center of our own tolerations, and we have put other people also in the center. How did they get there? R is to remember. Remember, you get what you tolerate from others and from yourself. And don't be hypocritical here, my friends, right? We take and take and take from our own future and justify it as comfort. But when others take from us, we label it entitlement or selfishness. Woo! It's true. It's true. B, bring the conversation forward. Not in blame, not in shame, but in service. Remember, if we just leave them in the center, that we most likely put them there. I'm not saying that for sure, 100%, it's all our fault. I'm not saying that at all. Although I don't mind it to be our fault, because if it's our fault, then we can be the solution to the problem. If it's somebody else's fault, then we're screwed. Okay. But if we participated in putting him in there, can we also participate in bringing them out of there with a conversation? Not in silence, not in yelling, but just a recognition that this is how they most likely got in the center and what they might like to see for their life if they weren't in the center. And then you invite them, that's I, you invite them into a bigger orbit. You show them what it looks like to be service focused, right? And you hold the space for them to step out of the center, again, without shame for them and without shame for you. And then we get to take action. We get to take action by continuing to model the behavior that you want to see and by setting boundaries that protect both connection and growth. So this week, I want you to notice a place or a person that you feel like you've been giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. And they've been taking and taking and taking and taking. Maybe it's a person in your life. Maybe it's you with your future self. And instead of silently pulling back or erupting, bring the conversation, bring it to service, right? Bring it with the intent to shift the orbit together. And as you do, I want you to ask yourself, is this really about what I'm tolerating? Or is it about what they're tolerating from themselves? Because I want to close this podcast with a perspective that I've never heard of before. And that is, most of the things that we quote unquote claim that we're tolerating in other people is the very thing that they're tolerating in themselves. I want you to consider that a possibility. And it's a big ask. It's a big step to be curious here, because we want to be righteous. We want to be right. But I do want you to consider that most likely, if you continue to tolerate something in others, they're most likely struggling with tolerating it for themselves. And if that's not the case, then it's probably just misaligned values. What you value and what they value aren't the same things. And I'm not even so sure that boundaries are going to help with that. But a conversation generally will, right? Because if we can see that, like really see that what you're tolerating in other people is most likely what they're navigating, tolerating of themselves. When you can see that, we unlock both compassion and clarity. And we both then move out of self-orbit and into service orbit, connection orbit, possibility orbit, where we can actually grow with one another, expand one another. So if we get what we tolerate, then I want to invite you to consider that you can change what you tolerate starting today. And I want you to consider that what you tolerate most likely isn't your own tolerations. It's what other people are struggling tolerating with themselves. So what if the work here was navigating and focusing on the tolerations that we continue to tolerate of ourselves, and less about the tolerations that we have of others? In that, you will undoubtedly improve every single relationship that you have, others and yours. And if we do that, I do believe we change the world, one person at a time. Because as I've said before, it does truly only take one person to improve a relationship, and that person is you. Always. And I will ask you, are you showing up? Are you showing up 100% the way that you want to in all aspects? Are you showing up unconditionally loving? Are you showing up in compassion? Are you showing up in curiosity? Are you showing up relinquishing others of your expectations, of your falsely formed tolerations? Are you doing that? Are you working on the very things that will help you grow as a person 100% of the time? And if you're not, that is your work. That is your work. Your work isn't to change other people. Your work is your own becoming now and forever. So I hope that you took this with the spirit that it was given, which is in love, which is in challenge, which is in coaching you into the very best version of you. And if you found it to be helpful, even if it might have been uncomfortable, can you share it with someone else that maybe is struggling and suffering needlessly from the unnecessary tolerations that they have of other people, and get them shifting out of what they might tolerate in others back into what they tolerate of themselves. So, my beautiful friends, until I see you next time, have an amazing, brilliant day. And we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye. If this episode cracked something open, good. Let it. And then head to leahrollingcoaching.com and grab the tools to rewire the story and reclaim your future. It is yours. And then share this with someone who's still waiting to be chosen, still waiting for permission, and remind them they don't need a breakthrough, that they are the breakthrough. Until next time, my beautiful friends, invest in you and keep becoming.